caution in concentration. Concentration is a form of exclusion, and where there is exclusion, there is a thinker who excludes. It is the thinker, the excluder, the one who concentrates, that creates contradiction. Because then there is a center from which there can be a deviation, a distraction. Too much concentration belittles life. Concentration is a narrowing down of the mind, but we are concerned with the total process of living. And to concentrate exclusively on any particular aspect of life belittles life. Concentration requires awareness. A concentrated mind is not an attentive mind, but a mind that is in the state of awareness can concentrate. Awareness is never exclusive. It includes everything. Concentration leads to success. One great cause of failure is lack of concentration. On reason. Reason, the light of nature. The light of nature is sometimes translated as light of reason, intellect. To be guided by reason, recognizing that both my positive and negative emotions may be dangerous if they are not controlled and guided to desirable ends. I will submit with declarative sentences, i.e., sentences used for the purpose of making some claim or assertion about the world. The logician. A logician is not concerned with the process of inference, but with the propositions which constitute the initial and endpoints of that process and the relationship between them. The proposition. Propositions are either true, premises, and conclusions. The conclusion of an argument is that proposition which is affirmed on the basis of the other proposition of the argument, and these other propositions which are affirmed as providing evidence or reasons for accepting the conclusion are the premises of that argument. However, a proposition standing alone by itself is neither a premise nor a conclusion, because premise, an assumption in an argument. Conclusion, what follows from propositions assumed in that argument. The art of inference. Inference, a process in which one proposition is arrived at and affirmed on the basis of one or more other propositions, which were accepted as the starting point of the process. The argument. An argument may be considered to be any group of propositions of which one is claimed to follow from the others, which are regarded as providing evidence for the truth of that one. The structure of an argument is premise, conclusion.
If y'all could hit that like button.
The two types of argument. There are two types of logical arguments: deductive, inductive. The deductive argument. In a deductive argument, the truth or falsehood of its conclusion does not determine the validity or invalidity of an argument, nor does the validity of an argument guarantee the truth of its conclusion. The valid argument. A valid argument is one in which all its premises are true, and hence its conclusion is true. The invalid argument. An invalid argument is one that is not valid because not all of its premises are true. The categorical proposition. Categorical propositions offer assertions about classes, affirming or denying that one class is included in another, either in whole or in part. For example, consider the syllogism: no athletes are vegetarians. All football players are athletes. Therefore, no football players are vegetarians. The premises and conclusion of the argument stated above are assertions about the class of athletes, the class of football players. 4 standard forms of categorical propositions. The 4 standard forms of categorical propositions are universal affirmative, all S are P. Universal negative, no S are P. Particular affirmative, some S are P. Particular negative, some S are not P. It is customary to regard the word some as meaning at least one. Posteriori. Posteriori is an argument from effect to cause. Knowledge based on experience. Priori. Priori is argument from cause to effect. Knowledge independent of experience. Analytic proposition. An analytic proposition is a proposition which is necessarily true because its denial is self-contradictory, e.g., all barking dogs bark. The synthetic proposition. A synthetic proposition is a proposition which is not self-contradictory and whose denial is not self-contradictory, e.g., all dogs bark. The universal. A universal is what is common to many different items, e.g., redness is common to all red things, the one in the many. A proposition about whole of subject class, e.g., all S. The particular. A particular is single, individual, as distinct from class or universal. A proposition about part of a subject class, e.g., some S is P. The Socratic method. Plato, through the character of Socrates, has a specific method of presenting his position on a given topic. His method of argument being comprised of 3 steps, starting with certain premises, through a process of reasoning, leading his opponent to his conclusion. Dismantling the Socratic method. The only way to dismantle the so-called Socratic method of argument is also a 3-step process. If the truth of the first is challenged successfully, and if the remaining premises that are based on the original premise follow logically, the conclusion is false. Emotion. Conscience is your pilot. Recognizing that my emotions often err in their overenthusiasm, and my faculty of reasoning often is without the warmth of feeling that is necessary to enable me to combine justice with mercy in my judgments, I will encourage my conscience to guide me as to what is right and what is wrong. But I will never set aside the verdict it renders. Emotions. Every emotion expresses itself in the muscular system. Anxiety is tremendous excitement held, bottled up. Anger should be expressed. Any anger that is not coming out, flowing freely, will turn into sadism, power drive, stammering, and other means of torturing. Motors of behavior. Emotions, the most important motors of our behavior. Emotions and the subconscious. The subconscious mind favors thoughts inspired by emotional feelings. It also gives preference to dominating thoughts. Emotions are both positive and negative. Realizing that my emotions are both positive and negative, I will form daily habits which will encourage the development of the positive emotions and aid me in converting the negative emotions into some form of useful action. Happiness. Happiness is the moral measure of man. The measure of the moral worth of a man is his happiness. The better the man, the more happiness. Happiness is the synonym of well-being. Attaining happiness. In order to achieve happiness or the right conduct of life, one must acquire knowledge so he can think, reason, and create. Knowledge creates desire for the beautiful. Therefore, anyone that teaches must have the knowledge of his teaching. Simple pleasures. I like light rain. It gives one such a sense of calmness and tranquility. I enjoy walking in the rain, but most of all, I like books. I read all types of books. Why do I say that? First, I believe a couple should develop a kind of friendship. Linda and I have this kind of friendship. We understand each other like a pair of good friends. We thus can spend our time together happily. My wife is the luckiest thing that ever happened to me. Not the big boss. Happiness requires action. Everybody is capable of obtaining happiness. But the matter of going on or taking action to obtain it is in question. Fear. Understanding fear. To understand your fear is the beginning of really seeing. Intelligence and fear. There is intelligence when you are not afraid. Sensitivity and fear. Sensitivity is not possible if you are afraid of this, that, etc. Initiative and fear. There can be no initiative if one has fear, and fear compels us to cling to. There is fear and for when one aims at being highly esteemed and achieves such status, he is automatically involved in the fear of losing. Protection of his status appears to be his most important need, and this creates anxiety. We must be willing to live without being dependent upon the opinion of others. When we are completely self-sufficient, we can have no fear of not being esteemed by others. The more we value things, the less we value ourselves. We should devote ourselves to being self-sufficient and must not depend on the external rating by others for our happiness. So it is true that the more we value things, the less we value ourselves. The more we depend upon others for esteem, the less we are self-sufficient. Will, then. Will to do. My will to do springs from the knowledge that I can do. I'm only being natural, for there is no fear or doubt inside my mind. The supreme court of the mind. The power of the will is the supreme court over all other departments of my mind. I will exercise it daily when I need the urge to action for any purpose, and I will form habits designed to bring the power of my will into action at least once daily. The yielding will has a reposeful ease. The yielding will has a reposeful ease, soft as downy feathers, a quietude. To do.
Go hit the like button.
The heart is humble, placidly free from anxiety. One acts in harmony with nature. One moves and revolves in the line of creation. The will to win. The attitude that you can win if you want to badly enough means that the will to win is constant, and no amount of punishment, no amount of effort, or no condition is too tough to take in order to win. Such an attitude can be developed only if winning is closely tied to the practitioner's ideals and dreams. Experience shows that an athlete who forces himself to the limit can keep going as long as necessary. It means that ordinary effort will not tap or release the tremendous store of reserve power latent in the human body. Extraordinary effort, highly emotionalized conditions, or a true determination to win at all costs will release this extra energy. Therefore, an athlete is actually as tired as he feels, and if he is determined to win, he can keep on almost indefinitely in order to achieve his objective. Morality versus authority. I can walk away from millions because it's not right, but I'll be damned if I'll back up an inch from a dime because it has to be so. The issue of free will. Is free will caused by our own volition or by God? This is a theological problem of the Middle Ages. Or is it governed by causal law? The term free then becomes the grandson of chance. If human actions are governed by causal law, the problem then becomes that there are no actions that are voluntary. The will can be lethal. There is no weapon more deadly than the will. The will and the woman. Unquestionably, man has his will, but woman has her way. The will is spiritual. The spiritual power of man's will removes all obstacles. The hero is the self-willed man. What does self-willed mean? Does it not mean having a will of one's own? The human herd instinct demands adaptation and subordination, but for his highest honor, man elects not the meek, the pusillanimous, the supine, but precisely the self-willed man. The heroes. Self-will is not governed by external laws. Self-will seems to be the only virtue that takes no account of man-made laws. Having one's own will. What does self-willed mean? Hell, isn't it knowing above all that indeed one is the captain of one's soul, the master of one's life? Now, what causes such realization and, consequently, brings about a change in responsibility for oneself? The aim of the self-willed man is growth. A self-willed man has no other aim than his own growth. He values only one thing, the mysterious power in himself which bids him life and helps him to grow. His only living destiny is the silent, ungainsayable law in his own heart, which comfortable habits make it so hard to obey, but which to the self-willed man is destiny and Godhead. Goodwill. Take the time to help others. I'm not one of those guys that can brush people off. Besides, I feel that if I can just take a second to make someone happy, why not do it? Try not to offend. I'll not willingly offend, nor be easily offended. To mend and to endure. What's amiss, I'll stop to mend, and endure what can't be mended. Real living. Real living is living for others. Watch what you say. Diseases enter by the mouth. Misfortune issues from it. To help one's neighbor. If every man would help his neighbor, no man would be without help. The noble character. Nobility of character manifests itself at loopholes when it is not provided with large doors. True friends are rare. True friends are like diamonds, precious and rare. False friends are like autumn leaves, found everywhere. Let friendships develop on their own. Let friendship creep gently to a height. If it rushes to it, it may soon run itself out of death. Love and respect. Without respect, love cannot go long. Proficiency and harmony. Be proficient in your field as well as in harmony among fellow men. Kindness and remembrance. A person cannot forget someone who is good to them. Dreams. Dreams are future realities. Yesterday's dreams are often tomorrow's realities. A practical dreamer. Be a practical dreamer, backed by action. Practical dreamers never quit. Right now, I can project my thoughts into the future. I can see ahead of me. I dream. Remember that practical dreamers never quit. I may now own nothing but a little place down in a basement. But once my imagination has got up a full head of steam, I can see painted on a canvas of my mind a picture of a fine, big, 5 or 6 story Kung Fu Institute with branches all over the states. I am not easily discouraged. Readily visualize myself as overcoming obstacles, winning out over setbacks, achieving impossible objectives. Fragments of dreams are fragments of our personality. Put the different fragments of the dream together, and we own these projected, fragmented parts of our personality. And we own the hidden potential that appears in the dream. The re-owning equals the understanding of our projections. The way to bring back the dream. The way to bring back the dream is to relive the dream as if it were happening now. Spirituality. The difficulty of spiritual cultivation. The cultivation of the spirit is elusive and difficult, and the tendency toward it is rarely spontaneous. The spirit is the controlling agent of existence. The spirit is no doubt the controlling agent of our existence. As to its whereabouts, we can never tell, though altogether beyond the realm of corporeality. The invisible seat controls every movement in whatever external situation it may happen to find itself. It is thus to be extremely mobile, no stopping in any place at any moment. The vital realization of the spirit. When man comes to a conscious, vital realization of those great spiritual forces within himself and begins to use those forces in science, in business, and in life, his progress in the future will be unparalleled. Spiritual power. Recognize and use the spiritual power of the infinite. The intangible represents the real power of the universe. It is the seed of the tangible. On seeking the divine within. Whether it is the Godhead or not, I feel this great force, this untapped power, this dynamic something within me. This feeling defies description, and there is no experience with which this feeling may be compared. It is something like a strong emotion mixed with faith, but a lot stronger. The spiritual force transcends all. I feel I have this great creative and spiritual force within me that is greater than faith, greater than ambition, greater than confidence, greater than determination, greater than vision. It is all these combined. My brain becomes magnetized with this dominating force which I hold in my hand. Intensity Enthusiasm is the God within. Intensity and or enthusiasm is this God within us, one that instinctively becomes the art of the physical becoming. And within this transition, we no longer care to know what life means. We are indeed furnishing the what is by simply being. The spirit of the universe. The integrating principle of the whole, the spirit, as it were, of the universe, instinct with contrivance, which flows with us. Contemplating heaven while living on earth. I wish neither to possess nor to be possessed. I no longer covet paradise. More important, I no longer fear hell. If you ask me what I will do in heaven, I will say this. Why should I think about something so far away when there are so many things in this life I have not finished learning about? 4 questions on the existence of God. Can we know God exists? To be perfectly frank, I really do not believe in God. If there is a God, He is within. You don't ask God to give you things. You depend on God for inner being. On organized religion. I have no religion whatsoever. I believe that life is a process and that man is a self-made product. The spirit of the individual is determined by his dominating thought habits, on the divisiveness of with others because they believe in different religions. If, however, they only gave the matter a bit of thought, they would never fight for such a foolish cause with organized religion. The source of trouble in religion is to attribute to the cause with doctrines, rules, and prejudices between heaven and earth. If you ask me, what will I do in heaven? I will say this. There are many things in this life I have not finished. Why should I think about something so far away? The spirit is strengthened in sorrow. Happiness is good for the body, but sorrow strengthens the spirit. Character is the form of the soul. Character is to the soul what outward appearance is to the body. A man's genuineness and refinement should not reveal themselves directly. They should express themselves only indirectly as an effect. Let the spiritual grow up through the common. Live content with small means. Seek elegance rather than luxury, and refinement rather than fashion. Be worthy, not respectable. Study hard, think quietly, talk gently, act frankly, do all bravely, await occasions, hurry never. In a word, let the spiritual, unbidden and unconscious grow up through the common. Let the spirit out. Discard all thoughts of reward, all hopes of praise and fears of blame, all hopes of one's bodily self. And finally, perception, will. The spirit controls the body. The active is controlled by the inactive. The active being form or matter, and the inactive being spirit or mind. Minimize inwardly. It is not difficult to trim and hack off the unessential and outward physical structure. However, to shun away, to minimize inwardly, is another matter. The spirit is formless. According to Zen, the spirit is by nature formless, and no objects are to be harbored in it. When anything thing is harmed, its native activity becomes cramped, and it no longer flows with the stream. Where the energy is tipped, there is too much of it in one direction and a shortage of it in another direction. When there is too much energy, it overflows and cannot be controlled. In either case, it is unable to cope with ever-changing situations. But when there prevails a state of purposelessness, which is also a state of fluidity or mindlessness, the spirit harbors nothing in it, nor is it tipped in one direction. It transcends both subject and object. It responds empty-mindedly to whatever is happening. The end of spiritual training, not to localize or partialize, is the end of spiritual training. When it is nowhere, it is everywhere. When it occupies 1/10, it is absent in the other 9/10. Let a person discipline himself to have the mind go on its own way, instead of trying deliberately to confront infinite and unceasing. Part 3. On matters of existence. To flow like water, flowing water never grows stale. The idea is not to overdevelop or to overexert, but to normalize the function of the body. On the I really dig exercise. When I'm jogging early in the morning, boy, Hong Kong is one of the most crowded places in the world. I'm surprised how peaceful it can be in the morning. Sure, there are people, but I become oblivious to them when I am running. On the therapeutic benefits of jogging. Jogging is not only a form of exercise to me, it is a form of relaxation. It is my own hour every morning when I can be alone with my thoughts. On diet. Only eat what your body requires, and don't become carried away with foods that don't benefit you. On smoking, drinking, and gambling. I don't drink nor smoke, and these events are many times senseless. I'm not a smoker because I don't think putting smoke into your body is quite the thing to do. As for alcohol, I think it tastes awful. Don't know why anyone should want to drink this stuff. As for gambling, I don't believe in getting something for nothing. Health is a state of balance. Health is an appropriate balance of the coordination of all of what we are. R is being mind rather than having mind. A healthy person has both a good orientation, sensoric system, and ability to act, motoric system. So if there is no balance between sensing and doing, then you are out of gear. Courtship. Courtship is not always the proper prelude to matrimony. Courtship is not always the proper prelude to marriage. During courtship, two people who are attracted to each other seek exciting things to do. They go dancing, they dine at fine restaurants, go to museums. They get to know all the diversions in their particular geographic locality, but they do not get to know one another. Many successful marriages are made in college. Many successful American marriages are made in college. There, each has a task, and each can evaluate the will and the zeal with which the other approaches responsibility.
All right, y'all, I made it.
In a college situation which demands application of intention, but flexibility of approach, one can learn much about one's fellow students' success with learning techniques. Love.